Friends, well, I have 10:03, so I would love for us to get started. Let me welcome all of you to this Clerk of Session training event that we have scheduled. And I want to just show you briefly a little outline of the day so you kind of know what is coming up. And we can get started and have our training here. So let me just go to here for a second and welcome all of you. I hope you can see the screen. It says Clerk of Session training and the day and the time. That's what we're about today. And so a warm welcome to all of you. What we have in mind here is welcome, and we'll do some introductions of our little team here, Megan and Jody and myself. I would like to take a minute or so, a few minutes, to go around the Zoom room and ask you all to introduce yourself, your years of experience as a clerk of session, you know, from 0 to 50, whatever in between where you fall, and then tell us one thing you really want to make sure you learn today, and we'll write that down and try to get that done. And then I'll have a little devotion and an opening prayer. We're going to talk about our website a little bit. And Megan is going to help us learn how to get into the database. We have a superb database written especially for presbyteries that's very, very helpful for churches and certainly for clerks of session. We'll get you your passphrase. We have a lot of times clerks need the pulpit supply list because the pastor's away and maybe in an emergency situation or pastor's on vacation and you're asked to kind of help find worship leaders. So we'll show you how to get to that. I'll do a little bit on annual reports. For those of you who've been around as clerk or know about this, they are due on this coming Wednesday, but there's lots of grace, so we can do that. I'll review some of the stuff that we have on the website and then also look very briefly at our session records review sheet. We're going to take a break at 11:15, and if you know parliamentary procedure, order of the day means whatever we're doing at 11:15, we take a break and we, do what we need to do, come back in 10 minutes. Jody will then lead us through this whole thing of minutes. One of the major responsibilities for clerks of session, of course, are taking minutes. And so why, and their templates and helps. And Jody also prepares after every assembly meeting, a summary, which is superb. And we want to make sure you see that and get that to your other elders on the session so they know what that is, and then questions and answers, and we're done. So that's the plan. So I will stop sharing. Okay, let me ask Megan if you introduce yourself a little bit, and then Jody, and then I'll say a few more words, and then we'll go around the room. How's that?
Hi, everybody. My name is Megan Hendrickson. I am the Senior Administrative Assistant for the Presbytery of Chicago.
And it's just a little more, just.
Sure. Okay. I started working for the Presbytery a couple years ago as the project manager and was recently brought on full-time this past October. So I'm very happy about that. I feel very blessed. And I love working here.
And we may hear a squeal from a 1-year-old that's 1-year-old tomorrow.
Tomorrow, yes.
So you see little Dave, you might want to bring David in just so we all can see him.
Oh, okay.
As you're able, okay. Thanks, Megan.
Sure, yeah.
Jody, please.
Hello. Pardon me. My name is Jody Creglow. I am the recording clerk for Chicago Presbytery. My day job, I work as the technical services supervisor at the library at Trinity International University, ordering, cataloging, processing the books and ebooks that come in. I also, let's see here. I'm also, for purposes of this meeting, I am finishing up my PhD in educational studies, doing a historical study on a couple of different organizations. So literally what I am doing right now is research into board minutes. And so, yeah, you actually, when we talk about minutes, we're going to do some comparisons. from some historic minutes at Columbia Theological Seminary. So looking forward to that.
Okay, thanks, Jody. See, expertise all around. So, all right, how about if we go, Jody, why don't you pick somebody to introduce themselves, and then we'll ask, after you introduce yourself, you're going to give your name, your church, your years of experience as a clerk, one thing you want to learn, and then after you're done, would you please name somebody else? Everybody's name is up there, and we'll keep track and make sure everybody gets introduced. Thank you. Jody, please pick somebody.
I am muted right now. I would like to invite Rosemary to introduce herself.
Well, for some strange reason, I knew you were going to pick me because my name is Brown. Always come first. I'm Rosemary Brown from New Deliverance Church, and I'm a clerk in training. I'm just beginning to train. So I'm a retired nurse, and I've been with the church for 7 years, and sounds interesting to me. So I thought maybe that's what I may want to do is train for a clerk. So that's what I'm doing right now. I'm a clerk in training.
Excellent. Thank you, Rosemary. Would you pick somebody else to introduce themselves, please?
Let me see. I'm going to go here. I got so many people here. Well, you know what? I'm going to, well, why not teach Anthony Talbert? He's my teacher. So
Good morning. Good morning. My name is Anthony Talbert, and I'm the current clerk of session with New Deliverance Presbyterian Church. And I've been clerk of session there for at least 5 years, but we are a merged church, and we merged with Cornerstone and Chatham Bethlehem Presbyterian Church. And I was clerk of session at Chatham Bethlehem Presbyterian Church for about 15 years. So in total, I've been clerk of session for 20 plus years. And I'm currently a retired claims manager from Allstate Insurance Company.
Okay, thank you much, Anthony. Please pick somebody else.
Sandra.
Hello, my church is St. Luke Church in Downers Grove, and this is going to sound ridiculous, but I don't remember whether it's 1 or 2 years that I've been clerk. You know, that whole pandemic thing, just my brain is dead. But anyway, not very long in the overall scheme of things. I don't there's really anything that if there's something I need to learn, I don't know what it is. So I need to learn it, I guess. So yeah.
Say a little bit about your other work at the Presbytery.
Okay. So I just started on COM, my second go around as being on COM. I was on COM many years ago for 5 or 6 years. But I also was a moderator, which is what Ken is trying to get me to admit to. So a couple of years ago, I served as moderator of Presbytery. It was a wonderful, wonderful experience. And it gave me this, which was my gift from the Presbytery.
Aren't you all jealous of that?
Robert's rules. Let's go with Deanna.
Good morning. Deanna Montgomery. I'm with the Morton Grove Community Church in Morton Grove. I have been clerk since April, and I'm really jealous that I don't have a clerk in training time, and I'm just there trying to learn everything as we go along. I've been with the church about 30 years, but this is my first foray into a responsible position at the church. I've had many jobs in the past. I've been a teacher. I've been a computer cartographer. I've been a book salesperson. I've been a lot of different things, and I am enjoying working with session right now. And I am looking forward to a nice checklist to reinforce all my duties as clerk, because they keep popping up. Oh, clerk, you need to do this. Oh, clerk, you need to do this. So hopefully we'll get a good list.
Surprise, surprise, right. Please pick somebody else, Deanna. Thank you.
Margaret.
Good morning. I'm Margaret Bauza. I live in Park Ridge, but I go to church in Arlington Heights at Southminster. And I've been clerk almost 2 years, and I really didn't have anyone to learn from. So, wow, have I gotten computer skills that I never thought I'd have. And one thing I'd like to get out of this is confidence. Thank you.
Okay.
Patty.
Morning. I am Patty Berner. I'm at Elmhurst Presbyterian Church. I'm brand new, August, September, never been a clerk before. I chair the HR team and have for years. And one thing I'd like to get out of today, more shortcuts or all the shortcuts. And definitely will be instituting my own clerk in training, provided we get session approval for that. Boy, that's a big thing for us. So thank you. All right, Catherine.
Hello, I'm Catherine Fink, also called Kathy, and I'm at Winnetka Presbyterian Church. I've been the clerk there for I think about 7 years. We've had 3 different pastors during that time, including the calling of a new pastor, which was a pretty interesting experience. And I learned from Nancy Hoffler, who some of you may remember. She was the clerk at Winnetka for many years, and a beloved friend and member. So what would I like to learn? I would like to learn, I think the idea of a checklist is a very good one. That would be helpful, and also to learn about the things that maybe I haven't realized I should be doing. I appreciate this meeting very much, and thank you. So let's see. Kelly?
Kelly, are you there? We can't hear you if you are. Okay, well, we'll hope you can get in and turn up either your volume or your microphone or something. It looks like you're unmuted, but we can't hear you. So let's see, who hasn't gone yet? How about Glenn?
All right, good morning, everybody.
Morning.
My name is Glenn Westman. I belong to Wildwood Presbyterian Church in Grays Lake. I'm entering my 2nd year as clerk of session there. I was very fortunate to follow in the footsteps of the previous clerk who was there for 6 years and kind of helped train me up, which was extremely valuable. In terms of wanting to learn, I guess I'm just open to about everything. I appreciate you putting this training on. I guess just running an orderly meeting. We do follow kind of loosely Robert's Rules of Orders, but just a refresher on that would be good. Thank you.
And Glenn, if you'd pick somebody else who hasn't gone.
I think I'm going to go. It seems like there's a mystery guest that is just listed at a 708 area code number.
Go.
I don't see their name, so let's do the mystery guest.
Okay, mystery guest at 708. You need, what is the star to unmute? Is it *6 or *9 or? Try
I think
one
it's
of those.
*6.
I think it's *6. And that'll unmute your phone, or I guess maybe I could unmute you. No, I can't unmute you. No. Telephone person, can you hit *6 and try to join us? Okay, well, we'll try that, try to get that later. Let me go, if you haven't, I'd say, I think Mary Ann, have you? So Mary Ann, please give us a good intro. Thank you.
I'm Mary Ann Sadalek from Riverside Presbyterian Church in Riverside. This is my 17th year as a clerk of session, and prior to that I was director of music for 25 years, a lifelong member of the church. And I'm anxious to know if there are some things that I should have been doing all these years that I haven't, and if any things have changed.
Yeah.
Thanks, Mary. And you could teach this class 17 years, and so could Anthony as well. Thank you. I don't think Bill Lyon has introduced himself. He's on voice only. Bill, are you there?
Yes, I am there.
Please introduce yourself.
Sure. I am Bill Lyon. I am at First Presbyterian Church of Arlington Heights. I've been affiliated with the church since 1963. I have been clerk of session for 3 days now, so I'm looking forward to learning what a clerk of session is and what they're supposed to do.
All right, thank you, Bill. 3 days.
And I think my friend Doug is the last one on the
Doug,
list.
give us a word, please, Doug.
Let's see, is the microphone working now?
We can hear you great.
Oh, I fixed the microphone. I can't fix the camera. All right. Well, I've got about 3 months on Bill Lyon. I'm Doug Bonthron, First Presbyterian Church of Homewood. I've been clerk of session for 4 months now. Our previous clerk of session had been clerk of session for a real long time, 15 years, maybe more. But he passed away. So I am stone cold. We have no members in our church that have been clerk of session. So I don't know what I don't know. And I have no idea what I learn every time I get mail from y'all. So.
Well, thank you so much, Doug. Good for you to step up. Yeah. Okay, let me ask one more time. Is Kelly able to unmute and say a word or no? Okay, Kelly, we'll have to come back to you. And also our mystery guest at the 708 area code who's on telephone. Are you able to do *6 and unmute or no? Okay, all right. I'm sorry we can't hear from Kelly and mystery guest, but hopefully you'll have this session recorded and you can listen to it later, and we'll try to put a name to a face or a name to a number as we go by. Okay, well, thank you all so much. We have obviously a range of experience, and it's fantastic that you all are able to be here. Okay, just in terms of a little opening and devotion, it's important to remember that we are a denomination within the larger Church of Jesus Christ. We are a denomination in many ways of books. Our primary book is, of course, the Bible. And I have mine here, and you all have yours, somewhere, I trust. We also have other books that we look at. One of those books is the Book of Order, and the other one is the Book of Confessions. And so just a couple things from the Book of Order for an opening devotion for us. Talks about councils. Now, a council of the church, that's the session, the presbytery, the synod, and the general assembly. All four of those are councils of the church. We used to call them governing bodies. If you've been around as long as I have, we used to call them judicatories. Now we're going back to the old word council. So each council shall elect a clerk who shall have some responsibilities, right? The clerk of session shall be a ruling elder elected by the session for such a term as it may determine. Most are elected for a 1-year term, but you can certainly do more than that. Clerks are to record the transactions of the council. And I just put in italics there what that means. So here's a partial list, right? Anything the session directs done, a decision it makes, the docket or agenda, taking minutes, correspondence. The sacraments have to be approved by the session. Any action the session takes should be in the minutes, and Jody will talk a little more about that. One of the roles of the clerk is to keep its rolls of membership and attendance. So this is the church register, right? This is the role of baptism, baptized members, those who join the church on profession of faith, reaffirmation of faith, transfer of letter, the marriages that happen in the church, the funerals that happen in the church, anything that needs to have a church register or roll notation. You'd be surprised, I still get calls from so-and-so who wants to prove they were baptized because they're marrying a nice Roman Catholic boy or a nice Roman Catholic girl, and the church wants evidence of their baptism. And so we can help find those records. And then also preserve its records, right? So this is records that are permanent and that are kept safe. And then, of course, to furnish extracts when requested. The required word is kind of hard there. It's requested. And that's part of our annual review of session records, which we've suspended during COVID, but we hope to start up again later this year. And then also the annual statistical reports, which we're asking for even now in these days. Another book that we look to is the Book of Confessions, and that's part one of our Constitution. I've asked Sandy Zealous if she would read this for us. This is some theology around the work that you are called to do as a clerk. So Sandy, if you would please.
Certainly. By the indwelling of the Holy Spirit, all believers, being vitally united to Christ, who is the head, are thus united one to another in the church, which is his body. He calls and anoints ministers for their holy office, qualifies all other officers in the church for their special work, and imparts various gifts and graces to its members. He gives efficacy to the word and to the ordinances of the gospel. By him, the church will be preserved, increased, purified, and at last made perfectly holy in the presence of God.
Thanks so much, Sandy. That last part kind of sings, you know, if you're a singer, right? They use the male pronoun here. They actually could have used the female pronoun since the word spirit in Hebrew is in the feminine voice. It's in a neutral voice in the Greek language. But I've underlined that line that the Spirit qualifies all other officers of the church for their special work. And when I lead these trainings, I always ask, you know, how qualified do we all feel? And some might say, yeah, I'm very qualified. Some of you with 17 and 20 years of experience, you are well qualified. Others, you know, we're still learning. The point of that being that we don't just get qualified ourselves by our own study or reading or experience. We also get qualified by the Spirit. So the Spirit gives us the gifts, the graces needed, necessary to do this good work as clerk. So I hope you'll kind of remember that and lean on that. You know, none of us do this work by ourselves. We have others within the presbytery to help. We have resources. And of course, we also have the Spirit who gives power and efficacy to the word and helps the church to grow, to preserve, increase, purified, and made perfect. So that's the work of the Spirit. So let's have an opening prayer, word of prayer together. Let's pray. Gracious and holy God, we give you thanks for this opportunity to be together through this technology, to learn some more about what it is to be a clerk, to be reminded that it is you, your Holy Spirit, who qualifies us for this work. We pray you'll guide us and bless us in our time together this morning as we learn and get to know one another, that we might be effective clerks as you guide and direct us in the leadership positions that you've called us to do, to exercise within our local churches and even within the larger church. Bless us and keep us in this and in all things. And we pray in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
All right, thank you all. I'm going to turn it over to Megan. Let me just show you once the slide here, just so you know where we're at again. What we're hoping to do next is the look at the database, right? Look at our webpage. Megan's going to walk us through a little bit of that. And Megan, I'll stop share and you can go ahead. Thank you much.
Okay, great. Thank you, Ken. All right, let me get my screen share up here. Okay, so I've opened the page. Can everybody see this to our website? chicagopresbytery.org. Let me move this here. Okay, so to access the directory, this is a great resource. We're going to go to the About Us tab and click on Online Directory. And then you'll see here, Online Directory. Click right here. Now I am already signed in, so I will sign back out if I can. Because everybody needs their own passphrase to access this directory. And if you don't have it, I can get it to you, or Ken can get it to you. So let's see, how do I sign back out actually?
Log out.
Oh, log it, thank you. See, this is helpful. Okay, so I'm gonna log back in. Okay, so right back to it. Thank you. So on the left here, you're gonna see the options to search for people, churches, organizations, and committees. Some more helpful resources are the pulpit supply list. I'm going to click on that. So here's everybody that's currently on our pulpit supply list. Now we are constantly updating our database. That is part of my job, is to keep everything up to date. So if you have any updates that you'd like to make from your church, just let me know. I'll go back here.
Megan, would you show them a church page so folks know what a
Yes.
kind of a church page looks like? Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. So why don't we type in, I'll just type in the first thing that came up. So churches, here we go. You can type in any name of a church, or you can download the church's directory. But here, we'll click on Hope Presbyterian Church in Chicago. So you'll see that that brings up the staff list, address and phone number, email addresses. And then you can also have a report to download. If you wanted to look at here, we'll look up people. My husband shows up. Here's Adam Hendrickson, the music director of First Pres in Arlington Heights. So this should get you, contact information for people that you would like to get a hold of in each church. And then let's go back to one more thing I wanted to show you. Go to the main page here. Okay, so here is the church's directory by region. And I think I've already actually got it open here. So close this. This opens on Acrobat. Yeah, so you're going to see all the different regions divided up in the churches within those regions, which is, I like having this format. You can put it out. Like I said, we're constantly updating this as well. Anything else to add, Ken?
That's very helpful. Let's go back to everybody. If there's any questions about getting into there, just go back to the stop the share screen there.
How do we get our passphrase?
Okay, we can give it to you. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, you can email me or Ken and we'll get it.
Yeah. And we have the list. I mean, I have you all on the list, and some of you are brand new. So we will input you into the database. So early next week, we'll get right on this and send you a passphrase so you can access it. There's also an access there for committees. Sometimes clerks need to
Yes.
know, I need to contact a committee. I don't know who the moderator of that committee is, who could, so you click on committees, you get all the committees, you click on the one you want, and that comes up. So it's a very useful, and it was written specifically for presbyteries in mind. So a lot of presbyteries across the country use it, and it's very, very helpful. Any questions kind of about that, just that resource that we have for you? Okay, all right, thank you. I'd like to go on then to the next page, which is just to use how to use the general resource of our web page. Okay, and let me get out of this here and get back to us. All right, so I'm going to share my screen now. Web page over. You always have to hum a little when you do these things, you know, because it takes time to click here and there and everywhere. So, okay, so as Megan said, this is our web page. The picture is a little dated. It's actually a picture, oh, that's where it goes back to, of an installation service for one of our churches at Carter Westminster Church, where I happened to serve before I was full-time with the Presbytery. So if you go to the top here, I gotta move, there we go. Home, about us, our work, resources. We have a whole page for you all, resources for clerks, okay? And some of you want to know about checklists and other things. This is a page that you would want to look at, okay? We'll skip yearly reports for now. We have a whole section called the Clerk of Session Handbook. This is a little dated, I'll just tell you right now, okay? But it is a great summary that was written by my predecessor, Barbara Bundick, who was clerk here for like 13, 14 years. She did a very good job. Barbara's also an attorney, so she's very specific about a lot of things, right? So she's a little dated, but it could be updated a little bit. So this has duties of the clerk, the meetings, clerking, that's the verb form, right, for the work we do, as you're taking minutes. Here are some things about Robert's Rules of Order that are asked about minutes. Congregational meetings are a little different from clerk of session, from session meetings, of course. Rolls and registers. Storing everything, and then the presbytery review of the minutes, and that's all of it. And you see Barbara's name here, so forget that. Just contact me instead of Barbara now. So other things that are on here, we have the Book of Order. This is a little dated, but it's still in force because we haven't changed it much in the last few years because of COVID, right? There's a whole page here on parliamentary procedure, okay? Some of you were asking about that. So if you click on that, you're brought up to the PCUSA webpage. This is a great resource. I got a call the other day from a clerk of session. Somebody needs a baptism certificate, and they didn't have any. I said, guess what? You can go to the webpage, pcusa.org, right? You could type in the search here and type in baptism certificate, and boom, it comes up as a printable document. You can fill it in and then print it. So it's anything you think you need, more likely than not, you can find it on the PCUSA website. This one has parliamentary procedures in the Presbyterian Church. It's a PDF file. You click on that, and this was written by one of our very experienced clerk, Greg Goodweller. He is a PRP. He's a professional registered parliamentarian, what Sandy Zealous and I long to be, but it's very hard to pass that test. And this has a lot of helps for parliamentary procedure. As the clerk, you really are serving as the parliamentarian for your session. And as we said, we're not so formal with this ordinarily. My advice always is when things start to get a little tense or a little, debating happens, then is the time to kind of tighten up parliamentary procedure and try to use this helpful guide. And so this is a summary. Sandy held up the big book. There's also a book called The Assembly in Brief, which is also very, very, very helpful. So those are some of the resources that are available to us. And then further down, Megan mentioned the pulpit supply list. That's also accessible from this page. If you ever need that, you just need your passphrase. I get a lot of questions from clerks about what records am I supposed to keep? How am I supposed to keep them? What are permanent records? So here's a page. You go to we have a Presbyterian Historical Society. It's a very cool location. It's in Philadelphia. We have a whole underground block in the city of Philadelphia that's climate controlled. It literally is underground. And all of the records, permanent records of the church are stored there. And mostly it's those nice minute books, church registers. That's the kind of the permanent records of the church. And this will give you some helpful insight, how to digitize records, which one should you keep, which one should you show out. This is a nice list of what you should keep forever and ever and ever, and what stuff you only keep for a short amount of time, 20 years, 10 years, 7 years, and so on. So that's a very helpful resource. And then there's some templates down here. I'm going to skip the ones that have to do with minutes because Jody will bring us through some of those. We do ask, starting this fall, we'll ask again about session records, review sheets, and those are available here. And they're also available in Word form. You can fill them out yourself. I'll go to the PDF form now. This is what we ask clerks to fill out. This is kind of a checklist also. If you want to know, what should I be doing as clerk? This is a very good page because it's asking you what needs to be in your minutes and what needs to be in your session records. And so what we'll do is we send this out, right? And say, will you please prepare your previous year minutes, years of minutes, right? So that we can get together for a session records review meeting. And you're asked to fill this out ahead of time, right? And this has everything and everything, right? That would be needed for your minutes. And this would be like a checklist. Approval of the sacrament of baptism. Sessions are supposed to approve that. It's not just the pastors say so. New members, session approval of weddings. That is the use of the church for a wedding. These are book of order references, right? So those are kind of regular things, this first page. The second page, what has to be done annually, kind of once a year, right? The Lord's Supper, training of elders, ordinations. We dropped 19, annual review of the pastor's compensation, election for you. If you're only serving a one-year term, it'd be good to re-elect you again. Session approves the budget, full financial review, all the things we're asked to do. And then minutes of the congregation and corporation meeting are here. And then church rolls and registers. And this would be updates of the active members, baptized members, affiliate members, and so on. So this we ask you to fill out and bring with you. What we do is then we get together, a group of us, we swap minutes, right? I take yours, you take mine. We go through our list and we review that. If you'd like a more thorough review of what that is, we did a training session a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years ago now, that just talks about that sheet, the session records review sheet. So that training there, you see the video, is totally focused on that. And you'll be able to look at that. Okay, I've said a lot. Let's stop sharing. We'll get to the year-end reports in a minute, but let's just take a short breather now. Any questions on any of those resources that I just went through on that clerk of session resource page. Please interrupt and speak now, please, Deanna. Yeah.
So the session records review sheet, is that something that happens every year? Does it happen
Oh,
every
no,
5
no,
years?
no.
How often do we
Yeah.
fill that out?
Well, in regular times, okay, before COVID, we try to do that every other year for churches in odd numbered regions or even numbered regions. That was our plan. We started out okay, then COVID hit. So what I think we'll do is, this is an odd year, right, 2023. So what I'll probably do is send an email out to ask those churches that are in odd number regions, and we could tell you what region your church is in, right? We have 8, and 4 and 5 are combined, so they're just kind of geographic regions. We'll ask them to come to one of these meetings. I usually set them up for Saturday mornings, kind of like this, only we're in a physical location, right? Ordinarily, I would do one in the spring, 2 in the summer, and 1 in the fall, right? We're already into February, not sure how that'll go, but we're asked you to bring your record. So in kind of standard regular times, every other year, so it would be the request. And you can't come that, you can bring it the next year. There's no requirement that you must come in an odd numbered year. It's just the way we have 79 churches. That's a lot of review and records to do, so we don't want to overburden you all, especially with that every year. It just seems too much, and too much for me and the staff. So we're going to do it every other year.
And we would base it on like the prior year, the whole year of minutes, or one session of minutes, or?
Well, it'd be 1 year. Yeah. So you would bring
Wow.
you'd bring your big book, and I don't have one here, but the minutes of the session. There's usually these great big books that are probably in every church, hidden somewhere, right? That are the permanent records of the session, right? Minutes of session. So we want you to actually bring that book with you, right? Or bring the pages for the years of minutes that need to be reviewed. And then we literally look at it, we put a stamp in there, we sign it, and we say your session minutes have been reviewed as of this date. Gold star on your clerk of session scorecard. Yeah. Anything else, friends, that I've just had us go through?
So when will we see that come up this year?
So this year, let me think. I would guess I would send out a request for that. And of course, we're already into the year, so we don't have a whole lot of time. Probably in the next couple of months, we'll be sending out a request. And we're going to go very slow, and there's lots of grace here because of COVID and people's schedules and stuff. So we would ask for session record review meetings, probably, like I said, they do 2 in the summer and try to do 2 in the fall. And if you don't get to it, you're still a beloved child of God. You can do it next year. All right. This is simply to help one another. It's not like you're bringing your report card into the school and having it checked off. This is a review to help people follow our own polity, the governance of our church, and to support one another in this work. So I would be looking for a request, probably, let's say sometime in March, may send those out for this year. So churches would be churches in odd regions, right? Odd regions. So let me just see if I can find that. We're having a little trouble with our, so the map is not up again. So churches, let's see. So region 1 are the churches along the North Shore, right? Region 2 are the churches northwest into the city. So Arlington Heights, Southminster be in region 2. The city and the near north side is 3, 4, and 5. We call the city and near west. Region 6 is the far west, right? Elmhurst will be there. Region 7 is the city and southwest. 6 Grace Church, all in Chicago City. Region 8 is the city and the far south. Tinley Park, Orland Park, Homewood is in region 8. So we would publish the list. The list is available on the website also, and get that out to you. But I don't want you to be overwhelmed by this. Like I said, the intention is to help one another, to try to keep us within our historical tradition of Presbyterian polity, and help our sessions do what they're called to do. Yes, please, Patty.
Is it helpful to try and find the last report or review that has been done,
Yeah.
And for reference, and where would I find that?
Yeah, so there should be in the minute book somewhere back. Now it's going to be before 2019, right? 2018. There should literally be in your minute book a stamp at the last page and a signature. It should say reviewed by the Presbytery of Chicago, a date, and a signature. All right. So I would go, digging in the church record book and finding where it is been stamped. I don't police this too thoroughly, right? It's important, but we're not, there's no demerits given, okay? So if you look, maybe the church, if there's a church secretary, he or she may know, when the last time this was done. The pastor may have some insight, but usually there should be some kind of a rubber, if you will, an ink stamp in that book, and with a date and a signature. Yeah. Anybody else on this stuff? It's a lot, I know. Sandy, I can't hear you. Go ahead. No, still can't hear you.
Hey, Sandy, put your mic down on your face.
Sorry. It's just okay. Deanna had a question in the chat. She wanted
I'm sorry,
to know.
Deanna, go ahead.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, no, one meeting, one. So I'll try to schedule within, and we try to have the locations within the region where you are, right? So I say we're going to do these 4 locations for the odd numbered regions at these churches. And we feed you, right? We bring coffee and donuts and usually corner bakery stuff. If you know corner, always bring the nice big cheese, the nice big coffee cake. So good food, good fellowship, hour and a half. We divide into groups. Those who've never done this before meet with me. Those who could do this in the back of their hand, they go to the other end of the room, do their minutes, and they're done, right? So you would just come to one meeting, ideally once every other year. Okay, anybody else? All right, you all, thank you. Let me just show a little bit about the annual reports. And those are also listed on the webpage. And I hope by now, all of you have received either in the church office or to you yourself or to the pastor, the request for the annual reports. Megan and I send these out. We sent them out in mid-December, great big white envelope that had a nice neon sticker, didn't flash, but neon colored sticker that said 2022 annual reports. And then in early January, we sent an email. There it is. Thank you, Sandy. And in early January, we sent an email to you if we had your name. Now, new people, we may not have had it, right? The treasurer, the pastor, and the office staff person, with the hope that of the 4 who received it, it would get passed on to the clerk of session, all right? So that it could be completed. And Megan has the most insight about this. Let me share the share again our webpage, right? And you can see where that is. So we're going back to our main webpage, right? No, come on now, go away. All right, here, go to home. Here's where you get right on here, this nice picture, all these nice looking people. And then resources for clerks. And the very first thing you'll see are the year-end reports. This is our annual request, right? Now, the annual statistical report, it's a portal, right? And if you click on that, you'll get this screen, right? And this will ask you for a name and a password. There's a unique name for your church, and there's a unique password for your church, okay? And let's see, this will bring you to the page for your church, okay? Now, I don't have that list of passwords in front of me, right? So I'm going to go through what I have in another way. Don't worry about this stuff, but this is how I get into this stuff. So I have to put in my password and take that out. And then my password. And this is what I get, but this is more than you get. So don't never panic with all of this stuff, right? If I go to the back to this home page here, right? Denominational statistics, statistical reporting, I can enter the system, okay? And again, all I need here is a name of a church. So I'm just going to pick, let's pick Tinley Park, First United in Tinley Park. And we're in Illinois. And then what comes up is, uh-oh, did I misspell it? Oh, it's Faith United in Tinley Park. Oh, come on. What am I
Maybe
doing
just
wrong
put
here?
Tinley Park, Illinois. See what happens.
Let's just try Tinley Park. Okay, there we go. Thanks, Joe. This is what you'll see, right? The church, all the information there should be, check that. If you want to edit this, you click on edit and you go through and change it, right? The clerk of session is Janice. If that's incorrect, I think you edit the mailing again. There you go, and you would change that, right? And then this are your statistical questions, all right? And this is the instructions for it. All right, pretty basic stuff here. If you need more stuff, there's a great information page here. And then you're asked to enter membership statistics. So at the end of 2021, Tinley Park had registered in their list 95 members, right? You'd insert the, oh, look, they already did this report, right? Gains, 2, certificate of loss, 10, deaths, 2 deaths, so 12 lost. So their ending active membership is this. You always have to click accept. Okay, I'm not going to do that in case they did something else. So you click accept, it goes into the system, right? Congregational life statistics presented for baptism, average weekly attendance. Now that's real hard to do now because of COVID, right? So you can do it or not do it. If you want to take a guess or you have some numbers, that'd be great. This is a new category, friends of the congregation. Many of us have people coming to our worship services who are not members, but they want to, be involved. And so you can add that number there. How many on the session? Do you have deacons? General distribution. How many women, how many men, how many non-binary, genderqueer who don't specify, right? Add that up. This is sometimes hard to do, but we like to have a sense of where's the age distribution of our members, and then a word about youth. And you'd hit accept there. And then racial ethnic information. How many people with a disability, some form or another, hearing or sight. What is the racial ethnic composition of the church, right? You could do that. And then again, accept. And then your finances, okay? General income, general expenses, how much came in pledges and regular offerings, if you had any investment income, if you did a capital program, any bequests, those are lovely to get bequests. Any subsidy or aid from the presbytery or other entities, other income, right? Those that use the church property, AA meets there and gives you a donation, etc. And then what your expenses were, your local program, how much you spent on local mission, any capital outlays, any expenses for your investments, what you gave it per capita, other mission, and accept. And then you're done. As long as you click submit, you'll be all done with that part. So that's the page for the annual, it's called the session annual statistical report. And that's what we're asked each church to do every year. And the request usually comes to start looking at this in mid-December, look at it again in January, and to please have it done, if at all possible, by February 1. And then very briefly, just to look at some other things here. It's hard to find these with the Zoom thing up there. Let's see here, if I can do it this way. Okay. So back to the Presbytery webpage, and again, resources for clerks. The other reports are kind of our own reports, okay? So this next one, ruling elder commissioners to the Presbytery. We ask you, you could download this. You see the download there, right? Download. Type this out, save it, send it to us. What we're asking for here is, of all the people on your session, who might come to serve as a ruling elder commissioner for a Presbytery meeting? We like to have that information ahead of time, right? So that way, when and if we do have in-person meetings, we can simply print out everybody's name. And if you come, you just come and put your initials by your name, and we know you were there, right? So this is everybody who might come to a Presbytery meeting. Each church has a certain number of ruling elders that they're asked to nominate, to elect to come, and I'll publish that list at the first meeting this year in February. So that's the first list. The next list has a positively awful name, a necrology report, but I've renamed it a little bit, and it's the report of the roll of the saints. And so here's the report of the roll of the saints, okay? And this would be those who died in 2022, okay? This is a fillable report, right? So you can, I don't want to do that. You can open it. Now it's not going to let me do that. What's going on here? Okay, let's try it again here. So you can fill this report out, right? Or print it out, fill it out by hand, if that works better, and then send it in to us. And we only want ruling elders, right? And ministers in your church who you know have died in the last year, right?
Yeah, can I have a question on that report?
Yes, please. Yeah.
So ruling elders. So anyone that was a ruling elder would be active on the session, or a ruling elder that's probably inactive?
Most likely inactive, yeah. In our understanding theologically, once you're ordained a ruling elder, you are a ruling elder in the Presbyterian Church forever, right?
Okay.
Until you join the church triumphant, right? So you may not be in active service, right? You've served your 3 years or 6 years on the session, we rotate it off, but we would like the names of all of those who were ordained ruling elders who ever served on the session, because their status in our theological understanding is they're a ruling elder, right? Also a minister, right? One of these days I'll retire and be on the list. And then when I go to glory, hopefully somebody will remember, oh, Ken, yeah, he was a minister. They'll put my name there, my ordination date, right? And the date of my death. And that's recorded. The Presbytery reads these names. We give thanks to God for these good folks who served in all of our churches, right? Local churches, of course, in their annual reports would list all the members who died, right? That'd be kind of a standard thing you all would do in the local church. We like to do it for those who are what we call presbyters, right? We don't use that word a lot, but a presbyter, there's two presbyters, they're ruling elders and ministers of word and sacrament. They are considered presbyters in our understanding. Deanna, please.
Apparently, I messed this up then. Because
No, you didn't.
for me, I did, but I interpreted ministers of word and faith just to be people members of the church, not actual ministers. Is that?
Oh, yes, those would be ministers. Yeah. Ministers who died.
So somebody who is actually an ordained minister, not just a member of the church.
Exactly, right.
Right. So Ken, if you have like a mature membership, almost everybody has been a ruling elder.
That's for sure. Yep. Yeah.
Okay.
So that list may be long. Yeah. And it's only in a given year, right? So, who died last year.
Yeah.
Right.
You can kind of think of it as anybody who would come forward to lay hands during an installation.
There you go. Right.
Yeah, that's right.
And I'll throw out there that, we had a death of a member this past year, and I didn't know if she had ever served as an elder. So I have this big old book that lists all the elders from when the time immemorial, when this church started. And I had to go through the whole book to look for her name because I had no idea. And her husband is incapacitated. So it wasn't like I could ask him.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and that's why it's useful to have those books and to be able to look that stuff up and have good records of that. Yeah, Deanna, you're waving a hand again, please.
Yeah, sorry, we have to clarify this just a little bit more for me.
Sure, go ahead.
So the forms that I sent in, then the ministers that I had listed can just be. Do you want me to resend the forms because those people are just members of the church? They were never ruling elders, and they are not ordained ministers.
Okay, Megan and I will make note of that. Okay. We'll make note of that.
So Michael Winters was a minister from our church, but he was not with our church anymore when he passed. So how do I not?
Okay, well, if you know about that, you can certainly list that name. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And I have we have access to all the ministers' names in the whole PCUSA. So we can check and verify. Yeah. In fact, I just got one today. It's a name I did not know. Let's see if I could find that name really quickly. Barbara. Anyway, I'll look in a minute. I'll look over the break. And just died recently, last month, and just got her information today. Didn't know she had died. So we'll list her as one of the ministers who died in 2022. Yeah. So it's mostly for local churches. If you know of a pastor, one of your former pastors, right, who died last year, we would like that name, right. And then as Anthony and Sandy and others are saying, as Jody says, when we do prayer and the laying on of hands and ordination, right, and we say, other ruling elders and ministers, please come forward. Sometimes 3/4 of the congregation gets up and comes forward because an awful lot of people, right, have served as ruling elders. Those are, we would call presbyters. And so we want the names of all the presbyters who died, ruling elders, ministers of word and sacrament, who died in a given year, right? Because we, give thanks to God for their life and work and service to God's way in the world, right? To Jesus' way in the world, love and justice. So any other questions about those reports? Did I finish them out? I don't recall. Oh no, let me go back. So just two more. We're coming up on our break anyway, so that'll be perfect. Okay, so the other annual reports that we ask for This one could be a little tricky. This is change in terms of call reporting form, kind of long, right? But this is simply asked if you have an installed pastor in your church, which most of our churches do, right? If that installed pastor, and with the session's recommendation, is going to get a raise, right? The congregation would need to approve that, right? Congregations have very important rights in our polity. And one of or two of those important rights are who's going to be the ruling elders, right? Who's going to serve on the session. The other important right they have is who's going to be our installed pastor, right? And there are terms of call for that installed pastor, salary, housing allowance, all that stuff, right? If that's going to change in the new year, right, which oftentimes it does, then we ask that you tell the presbytery what those changes are, because the presbytery has to also approve them, okay? And this is the little form we have set up for you to do that. Usually just print this out, right? Fill it out. Anybody still have a typewriter? We have an old typewriter now in the presbytery office that we use only a couple times a year, but this would be a good form for that, right? And you would put in the pastor's salary, and here are the minimums for 2023. Housing allowance, anything deferred. This can be confusing, right? We do ask churches to pay the SICA, which would be the FICA, right? And that's only 50% of the 7.65% that is required, okay? We ask the churches to kind of act like they're employers for Social Security purposes, just to help with that required Social Security that churches, that ministers have to pay each year. And then if there's a manse, there's a formula there, and this makes what's called the total effective salary, right? And then things that are not included in total effective salary, study leave, car allowance, other business expenses, and then this SICA offset up to 50% of the estimated SICA. Anything else, total vacation, study leave. And then if you have a pastor who's installed, you are more likely than not paying the Board of Pensions the required medical and pension dues, right, for that. And we ask to put that figure there. This can be a complicated form, and we can walk anybody through that who needs help with that. And we do ask that it be signed, right? So it's, for sure, name of minister, date of the congregational meeting, the minister's signature, and then your signature. So I know this is official. And then we report the total figures. We report the total effective salary. We report the additional compensation, and the Commission on Ministry reviews this. And then the presbytery actually approves it. So that way, just like when you call a pastor, you need the pastor to say amen. You need the congregation to say amen. And you need the presbytery to say amen. When you change terms of call for a pastor, same three-way call. Pastor says, yes, thank you for this raise. Congregation approves that raise. The presbytery approves it as well. And then all that is taken care of. And then I think finally, this is an important document too. If you have any questions about that, there are guidelines. I just this morning sent the update. There's a slight update for this, because wouldn't you know it, the IRS once again updated the mileage. It's now 65 cents or 65.5 cents per mile. It just went up for 2023. This is an exhaustive document. But it has everything on it that you can think of when it comes to paying a pastor, paying for a pulpit supply. You have a guest moderator coming to moderate because you don't have a pastor now. Here's another checklist that will help with this terms of call. Here is explanation about all of this. Minimum housing, cash and housing, utilities, all that stuff I just tried to explain very briefly about SICA, right? This gives you the kind of the very detailed explanation about that. Effective salary, Board of Pensions, reimbursable expense. So like I said, this is exhaustive, and it does help to have a lot of this information in there. And I think that covers all of those kind of annual reports that we ask you all to do. Okay, Elizabeth, welcome, please. Good to see you.
Hello, thank you.
Hello.
I just had what I hope is a quick question.
Sure.
So we had a minister who asked to change the allocation between the housing and the regular salary. They were making changes to their home. I just wanted to understand, is that good? Is that fine? Does it have an impact on anything?
Yeah, that's fine to do. The session has to make that approval, right? The IRS is pretty sticky about this. They say it has to be done in the prior year. All right, so and you didn't hear this from me, but this is only a concern if one is audited by the IRS. Okay, the IRS is not going to come to your church and say, "Oh my God, you approved this on February 1 and you had to approve it by December 31." The law says it has to be approved by December 31 for the next year. If you want to change the designation, you certainly can do that, right? My guess is this pastor wanted more in housing allowance, right? Because the housing allowance is more expensive, and it's Chicagoland. It's expensive to live here. So yeah, that's perfectly fine. Believe it or not, some churches out in the far west, right, we're in California, where it's even more expensive, they have like 80 to 90% of the total figure designated as housing allowance, and only 10% designated as salary. The burden to justify that is on the individual minister as a taxpayer. It's not on the church. So just to kind of explain that the church doesn't have to worry about the designation. The pastor has to worry about it if and when he or she is ever audited. Yeah. So, that makes sense? Okay. Yeah. Friends, we're at 11:15. So I'm trying to stick to, is it? Yes, exactly. So let's do our break. Jody's up next. Other questions, you want to put them in the chat. I can try to answer them during our break. I'll put up a timer, okay? Because I learned how to do that recently. And we'll see you back here in about 10 minutes, okay? All right. Now don't close, just go to mute everything. Don't leave the meeting, okay? See you in a bit.
Hey, Ken, if you've started, oh, never mind. All right, welcome back. Ken, do you have anything else that you need to say before I jump in?
I'm good. Thanks, Jody. I noticed many of
Okay.
you put questions in the chat. You can still do that. And Jody will do her section now. I'm grateful for that. And we'll come back and try to answer any last minute questions. Thanks, Jody.
Sure. All right. So I am throwing a link in the chat right now. For those of you who are on computers and can access it, feel free. You have editing links on this, actually. This is part of, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so that I can show you. Oops, I just shared the wrong one. Hold on. Let's share that one. There we go. Okay, so this is part of a Google folder that I put together for you with just some of the stuff in it that we've been talking about today, which includes the training slides, the agenda so that you can, follow along with what's left. I have also been taking notes on this meeting so that in case you came in late or you would rather, just because that's how I roll. I can't not. And so this will be available to you for perpetuity. I'll just keep it up. And I also earlier threw a link in the chat how to get to this folder. I'll do it again later once we're done with this. But for right now, I want you to start off by answering these first 3 questions. If you need to add more bullet points under those questions, go for it. But in the meantime, see what you can do. Do that, and let me pull this up to 150.
Are we all adding together in the
Yes,
Google Doc?
you can all add together, and if you can't, if you either don't have access to this, you're driving or not particularly tech comfortable, that's fine. We can also talk about it, and I can add them here too. It's so fun to see what animals that they give us here.
It is totally fun. Yeah.
Yeah, a raccoon, a quagga, a zebra. Yeah. What's that one? Ifrit? I have no idea what that is. Anteater, mink. Yeah. Okay, take another, I'd say, minute or so. Looks like we still got a few coming in. Whoever the chameleon is, you're a person after my own heart, that you're lining things up. Okay, looks like we're pretty much like the amount of editing is going down. So let's see what we have here. So what are minutes? Record of the actions of a group. Okay. Record of attendance. Record of the actions of the meeting. Record of decisions. Absolutely. Is there anything anybody else can think of in there? It's a pretty good list. I do not have, let's see here. I should probably pull chat up to see if anybody's put anything in there. Okay, no, not yet. Ooh, records of discussions. Ooh, yeah, okay. Whoever just put that one in there, that's actually a really interesting, like, this is where minutes turn into both an art and a science. So there are templates aplenty out in, the interwebs for taking minutes of meetings. And different types of meetings often require different types of notes being taken on them. And so what determines a good set of minutes is the use that it is going to serve and the population that it's going to serve. Yep, also financial information. Yep, I will go ahead and put that in there. Just saw that in the chat. I thought you weren't allowed to do discussions. We will actually be talking about that in just a second. So hold that thought, Elizabeth. So why do we take minutes? To keep a record of the actions for future reference. Absolutely. History of the organization. Yes. Accurate tracking for finances, decisions that are made. All of those are good. Yeah. So, I'll just tell you about my experience. I was really new to the Presbytery when I started in on the Presbytery Coordinating Commission. And I had no idea what I was doing. I didn't know what I didn't know. I had no sense of organizational history, that kind of thing. And what I realized as I was going along is that if I went back and looked at the notes that were taken, the minutes that were taken from previous meetings, I could get a sense of what the group was, what they were supposed to do, and a little bit of their history. So it's not just, keeping in mind what happened during the meeting. It also, as you're tracing the history, you get a sense of who they are and how they function. So yeah. And then for whom do we take minutes? Future congregations and session members? Yes. Congregants, sorry. Those who missed a meeting and want or need to know what happened. Current members of the church? Absolutely. Current session members and committee members? Yes. And the presbytery? Yeah. You could also theoretically say people who are trying to get information for other projects, even like if you've got consultants coming in that need to know about what's going on in your church, they'll often go to the session minutes to see, because generally speaking, in Presbyterian churches, if something big is happening, it's going to be talked about at a session meeting. So yeah, and so there's a lot more, and in general, granted, probably fairly rare occasions, also outside people who are trying to learn something about your organization. Which kind of, if anybody who's an eager beaver in here has scrolled down to the next page, you will see what I'm talking about. So, this is a little bit of context on why I chose this. Like I said, I am currently feverishly writing my dissertation. It's due in 3 weeks, actually about 2.5, but we are part of the dissertation is looking at the organizational history of Columbia Theological Seminary down outside of Atlanta. That's one of our PCUSA seminaries. And in order to get a sense of what was happening, I have to go back and actually look at the minutes that they have from former years. And so these were a couple of the, some excerpts of minutes that I found. The first one was a faculty meeting from 1899. And because it's in handwriting, and by the way, there's also a reason why we ask you to type your notes now, because looking through literally books full of this kind of writing gave me like countless headaches trying to figure out what exactly are they saying there. Because, and also as like the minutes went on, their hands started cramping, so that handwriting got even worse. Like, yeah. Anyway, so Seminary Chapel, January 19th, 1899. Faculty met and was opened with prayer. Presents, Doctors McFeeters, Brim, Hall, and Reed. Minutes of previous meeting were read and approved, putting that there was no business before the body. After a brief conference over the general interests of the seminary, the meeting adjourned. That was the entire meeting minutes notes. Yeah, right? It is pretty amazing. So what does that tell us? What did those meeting minutes tell us? Yeah, just jump right in, because I can't see all the faces at this point because I'm sharing my screen.
Not much.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, my first thought was, well, then why the heck did they meet if they didn't have any business?
If you didn't have any business to attend to, why did you even come? Yeah. Why did you make people show up when you didn't have anything to talk about? Yeah. Yeah. And also, I mean, this is 1899. So so just for context, within 5 years, the seminary said, we want a president. Like, they didn't have a president at this point. They just had a chair of the faculty, and the faculty themselves were responsible for all of the responsibilities that a president did. And so, like, they had stuff to do. Like, and so happening, that after a brief conference over the general interests of the seminary, maybe it would have been helpful to know what they talked about at that meeting. What were those general interests? They had a library that literally they had to wipe the mildew off the books in the summer. They had a chapel that used to be a stable. Like, buildings were falling apart. They were dealing with, like a recession and, like all of this stuff, but we have no idea what they talked about because they didn't write it down. It's not helpful to us that they talked about the general interests of the seminary. Like, okay, that's just pro forma, So late, about 24-ish years later, we get some minutes of the board of directors. And this comes right in the middle. You can see from the screenshot that it is page 3. So yeah, Mr. Brantley made a general statement for the information, and granted, this is 1923, so it's a little more stilted vocabulary. And it's a board of directors of a university, so it's probably going to be more formal anyway. But Mr. Brantley made a general statement for the information of the other members of the board, of the meeting of the committee with the pastors and a group of businessmen in Atlanta, also of the joint meeting of a committee with a similar one from the board of directors from Union Theological Seminary. By the way, if you aren't familiar with, some of the institutional history of Columbia, they almost, like, they were within a hair's breadth away of merging with Union Theological Seminary. But anyway, so, moving down, I'm going to go to the third paragraph. At the invitation of the president of the board, which was hardly approved by the board itself, Dr. W.W. Moore, president of Union Theological Seminary, there we go, was invited to address the board on the consolidation of Columbia and Union Theological Seminaries. Dr. Moore was thanked for his earnest and comprehensive presentation of this vital matter. The board then called upon the president of the seminary and other members of the faculty for an expression of opinion on the subject. The communication from Dr. White, who is detained at his home in Richmond on account of illness, setting forth his views, was read by the secretary of the board. Mr. D.W. Robinson presented a resolution embodying a recommendation to the synods. Mr. Brantley offered a resolution as a substitute. Mr. Robinson's resolution was adopted, which as follows, and, if you want to, you can read it. Okay, so what does this tell us?
Too much information.
Potentially. But for somebody like me who has to write about this potential merger, it's gold. Because it helps me understand where they're coming from. And also, if you read down a little bit, that they had this resolution that they had approved about, yeah, let's go ahead and merge. And then somebody came through, asked to reconsider, and they went in a completely different direction. Incidentally, at this meeting, because of this vote, the president resigned. Yeah. So, and so well-written minutes can actually be pretty compelling. If you want them to be, and it's, again, to be sensitive to Mary's point, yes, you can over-explain in minutes. You can totally do that. You can get bogged down in details, and you can, give what is in internet speak these days called TMI, too much information. You can absolutely do that. The art and the science, again, of good minutes writing is giving people enough information that they understand what's going on, but not so much that you've got them trapped trying to, sort through all of this stuff. Does that make sense? Yeah, absolutely.
Can I point out the other thing that I think, talking about whether it's too much information, they talked about there was a resolution that was presented, and then the substitute resolution, they only include the substitute resolution because that was the one that was adopted. So it's like if you have a motion that's been withdrawn, or, if you have a motion that's been withdrawn, you don't need to put that motion in the minutes because it never existed.
Right. And they probably put this one in because at one point it was accepted. There was the motion that carried. And so any motion that needs to be carried, and we'll talk about this in a minute, needs to be recorded. Anything that had a yes vote on it needs to be recorded, even if immediately afterwards it was reconsidered and then shot down. Yeah. So with that being said, let's talk about how to put together these minutes. And so on the POC website, let's see here, our work. Nope. Resources. There we go, for clerks. Down here, sorry for scrolling so quickly, you do have templates for meetings. And we'll just talk about this one for a second. That you can see what it might look like in here. What I also did, I tried to get it onto one page, front and back, doing an actual checklist of what you need to have in your session meeting minutes. And that's in this folder as well. So for this, let me zoom in again. And I also tried to put it in the order in which it will appear normally in a set of minutes. So you start off with the congregation session information. Where are you? And also include the location, because there are a whole bunch of First Presbyterian churches out there. Day, time, and place of meeting. And if it's on Zoom, say it's on Zoom, just so that, because that's helpful context for people to know. The type of meeting, is it a stated meeting? Is it a called meeting? Is it a joint meeting with the deacons? Because according to polity, you should be having those at least once a year. Yeah. Who is there? Who's your moderator? Who are your members of session? Who else was there? And who wasn't there that should have been, whose absence was excused, whose absence wasn't, depending on how your particular session works. Are all absences automatically excused? Are they not? Mark that down in the minutes. What has happened since your last stated session meeting? This is part of the denominational requirements. That you need to keep these records, and this is where they go. What changes in member status have happened? Any communions that have happened? These are both regular communions and special ones. Baptisms, elections, ordinations, and or installations. And that's both of paid people and unpaid people. So ministers of word and sacrament and elders and deacons. Weddings, deaths, any presbytery reports. Was there a presbytery assembly since your last meeting? If so, needs to get registered in the minutes. Because your presbytery commissioner should be bringing back a report. Any congregational meetings that happened, both special and annual. Okay. And then you open the meeting. All meetings, according to our polity, should be opened with prayer. So note that. You have to declare a quorum, and this is your job as a clerk. The moderator calls it, but you're the one who decides whether quorum has been established or not. And that's according to your church's bylaws. What quorum is. Is it 50% plus one? Is it another increment? Have that in the back of your head so that you know, so that you don't have to go looking it up all the time. Okay. And then adoption of the agenda / docket. That has to happen at the beginning of the meeting because it's the game rules for the rest of the meeting. And then any approval of previous minutes with or without amendments. Okay. Then you get into the meat of the meeting. Any actions taken that, you have to record any decisions that were made, any binding decisions that were made. And as we just saw, even if they're immediately overturned, if you got a yes vote on something, it has to be recorded. Yours is the official record of the actions that took place. So any motions that were made, you need to put in verbatim into the minutes, because this is the official record. You don't have to, unless your church has a procedure that does it. By Robert's rules, the person who made the motion and the person who seconded it don't need to be named. Again, it's personal preference that way. If your church prefers it, then do it. If not, you don't have to. And remember, anything that comes from a committee doesn't need a second, because it's assumed that, there are more than one person out there who wants to talk about this. Okay. Manner and outcome of vote. Was it part of the omnibus? Was it, unless I hear somebody objecting, we're going to count this as binding, in which case it's consensus. Was it a counted vote? And if it's a counted vote, record the counts. Okay. And any pertinent discussion. This is where you have, clerk privilege, to record as much or as little of the conversation that happened as you think is pertinent. Up to, don't transcribe the conversation because that's not necessary. But, going forward, if people need to look back at what happened during this meeting, what would be helpful for them to know? According to Robert's rules, you are not bound to put anything but the action in there. But it's also a matter of, being a steward of your church's history. What will be helpful for future readers to know? And that's where I'll kind of leave it. So, you know, like I said, it's your choice how much or how little you want to put in there. Any reports from individuals or committees, usually easiest just, you know, if they submit a written report, just throw it in there. Don't feel like you have to recreate the wheel. Any financial reports that are made, and any other pertinent information. If your session recesses for 10 minutes, put it in there. If there are any other special presentations or activities that for the good of the congregation need to be noted, put them in there, you know, kind of thing. And then closing the meeting, you need to record the time that people, you know, that it was closed. Our polity also recommends that. Do you need a good question, Ken? Do you need a treasurer's report in every meeting or 4 times per year?
I would recommend at least quarterly. That's I think what the Book of Order requires. So
yeah,
you should have, ruling elders should have a good grasp of information, and then at least once a year the congregation should have full grasp of the treasurer's report. Yep.
Mm-hmm. Time, date, and location of the next meeting. Just so that it's there, that, you know, this is when we expect to meet next time. And also, if, you know, somebody is reading the recap, they know, you know, in between, they know when and where they need to be for the next meeting. And your signature as clerk is required at the end of every set of minutes. And if you have more than 2 inches of space at the bottom of the page, you need to like draw a line through it so that later on people can't come in and add stuff that didn't happen. And then we also have information that you need to have annually that I put down here at the bottom. So I tried to get this so that you know, if you wanted to print this out and have it beside you, it's 1 page front and back. So, and like I said, you will have access to this in perpetuity. I also did one for the congregational meeting. I'm not going to go through it, but here's your information. A lot of the same things. And then you will also, Ken talked about those reviews. I was looking at the review sheets while I made this checklist. So hopefully everything that's on this check, you know, if you follow the checklist, you will be golden for your review time. Does the Presbytery receive a complete copy of our annual report booklet? Ken? No.
No, your records are your records. We like to know the stuff that's asked for in the General Assembly, kind of the 1-page summary, you know.
Mm-hmm. We only have about 5 minutes until the end of the meeting, so I will just quickly draw your attention to a couple other things that I threw in here just as an added bonus. First is the parliamentary procedure flowchart. If you know, since you are the de facto parliamentarian for your committee, for your church, you know, if this hopefully will help you not get lost in the weeds if you need to go into formal parliamentary procedure for a particular motion, for a particular action item. So that's in there. And of all of the flow charts the parliamentary flow charts that I have seen online, this seems to be the cleanest because some of them can get so confusing so very quickly. So that's what this is. And then also a while back, I was a part of, I was the curriculum developer for Theo Academy out of the Synod of Mid-America. And they did a whole session, a whole lesson series on training elders and deacons. And within this, there's one lesson that we did on parliamentary procedures. And so I threw in the study guide that we did on the the nuts and bolts of parliamentary procedure, talking about the background of Robert's rules, principles, and then a motion chart and a little activity that you can do trying to make sense of what order motions come in. So if you are more than welcome to take a look at that, use it, break it apart, adapt it as you see fit. And that is about my time. So I will turn it back over to Ken to close us out.
Jody, that's awesome. Thank you. And we have access to that. You send out the links.
Yep.
Or, okay.
So it is.
Yeah. Just put that in the chat or send it to me. I'll make sure it goes on the webpage so folks can access that, because that's really helpful. So yeah. I do see Sandy, who is a superb parliamentarian, put in the chat that according to Robert's rules, the name of the maker motion should be in there.
Oh, really?
Well, yeah, but see, that's Robert's rules. I take should as a weasel word. I hear the word should and I hear should ordinarily. One. Two, many of our motions come from committees.
Yeah.
So if it comes from committee, you don't necessarily have to put the name of the person.
Okay,
but also there's sometimes, we're families in our churches, and sometimes there's family dynamics. People don't want their name associated with a particular motion. So my general rule is don't do it. But you didn't hear it. You heard it from me, but you can follow Robert's rules. You're not going to get dinged on that. So friends, we are at 11:57. And I promised 11:55, so we're only 2 minutes over. I want to thank you all so much. I'll stay in the meeting a little bit. If anybody has some lingering questions, this is recorded. You want to go back and listen to something, you're free to do so. Any last minute questions that are just so burning, you have to ask them right now.
I will also throw a copy of my latest assembly summary in there in case you want to see it. I forgot to talk about that.
I saw Elizabeth Wade. Go ahead, Elizabeth.
So, and not everybody has to stay for this, but I just want to make sure I'm super clear here. So, in the world of being open, so our session meetings are getting a little spicy, as one of our people said, and there is a desire on the part of some people to make the minutes as stripped down as possible. They don't want any discussion. They don't want anything. They're like, we did this. And then later people say, that's not what we said. And so there's like almost a desire to take words out. And then, so if someone says, oh, this is what we talked about. And then someone says, no, that's not what happened. So I'm, as the clerk now, I'm trying to walk the best balance around this, and I could use some guidance.
Okay. Let's you and I talk. Jody may have some insights for you. Just hang on the meeting a little bit. That is a delicate balance, especially when, like you say, things get a little, just hang a little bit. We'll talk about that. So anybody else? Sandy, please.
Oh, no, go ahead. Anthony can go ahead.
Anthony, please.
Yeah, just briefly, the role of the moderator. The session, can't really, the moderator has to be present, but for the meeting.
Yes.
Or the role of the moderator, briefly.
Yeah, that is a requirement in our polity. The moderator and someone to be the clerk, you or somebody else to hold a meeting.
Hold the meeting.
Moderator gets sick. The moderator can say, "Hey, I have COVID. Anthony, will you please moderate the meeting?" As long as the session approves that, you're good.
Okay.
Yeah.
So like that would be like the first item that the session would do at a meeting is to approve, who sits in.
Pastor is sick, but no meetings without the moderator knowing about it. And that's where we get in trouble.
Right.
And there are awful stories there. Please, Janice.
I wanted to talk to Elizabeth's issue a couple of times when we had some spicy things going on. We found that using a thread of emails from each person, how they felt, was good, because I could print out that thread and keep it with my minutes. I didn't put everything in the minutes, but I kept that, or I would keep my own set of notes. But again, it's he said, she said, and if they're saying, well, I didn't say that exactly, when you have an email typed up from them, it's really helpful. really helpful.
That's good. That's good. Okay. And if you want to hang a little bit, Janice, too, please do. Any last minute items? We're at 12:01. All right, friends, let's have a brief word to pray. Holy God, we're grateful for this time to get to know one another a little bit, opportunities to share stories and insights. We thank you for all the conversation, the training, the learning that went on this morning. Keep us faithful, oh God, to this good work. Guide us and direct us as you would lead us, so that we can be good servants, good followers in the way of Jesus in the world and in the particular work you call us to do as clerks. And all this we ask through Christ our Lord. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you all, friends. If you want to hang a little bit, please do. Otherwise, have a great afternoon and be safe out there. It's
Thank
snowing
you.
now. So yeah.
Thank
It was
you.
Thank you all. You're
Thank
welcome.
you.
You're welcome.